Hey everyone, I'm Sebastian from KateCast Reviews, and welcome to another episode of Stories from the Wasteland. This is where I go into COVID-infested movie theaters in order to look at new releases and determine if they're worth your time and money. Today we're taking a look at a movie that should not have worked in any conceivable way, yet persevered with dignity all the way to the box office. That movie is Cruella. Directed by Craig Gillespie and being released against all odds following the COVID-19 pandemic and taking over directing duties after Alex Timbers left production, Cruella, as its name suggests, is an origin story of the fabulously sinister villain of the 101 Dalmatian movies. The movie tells the rags-to-fabric tale of Estella, played by Emma. Have people finally forgotten I once played an Asian woman in Aloha? Stone.
The first studio film with an Asian American lead since Ghost in the Shell and Aloha.
Who was forced into poverty following the Disney-mandated death of her mom, and with the help of her two friends Jasper and Horace, played by Joel Fry and Paul Hauser, she sets out to leave her own mark in the world of fashion where she belongs. Unbeknownst to her at first, her boss, the flamboyantly evil Baroness, played by Emma Thompson, is a cold and monstrously narcissistic woman who values her own self-image more than that of her peers, leaving Estella to go behind enemy lines to teach her a lesson, while bringing all the edgy punk rock attitude of the 70s with her in what I can only describe as anarchistic fashion. And before you ask, yes, it is Emma Thompson playing the narcissistic bad guy and not Madonna. Cruella De Vil was always one of the most terrifying villains in Disney's canon, not because of any special powers since she was mortal and had none, but because of how much of a commanding presence she had. One look at this woman and you know there is nothing but evil lurking under that wild black and white hairstyle. I'm sure most fans by this point are also aware that this is not the first live-action adaptation of Cruella the character, as she was famously portrayed in 1996 by Glenn Close in the live-action 101 Dalmatians movie. Glenn stole the show with this performance and portrayed Cruella in her most over-the-top extreme, bringing out all the flamboyant charm that the original was known for having. Emma Stone, meanwhile, gives a much more subtle and serious performance, while still retaining the same charm and demeanor. She absolutely kills it as both Estella and Cruella, as she has to deal with keeping the sweet and innocent demeanor her mother wanted from her while bottling up the evil tendencies she had when she was little. One can only bottle shit up so long before the bottle eventually explodes, however, and when Cruella steps into the metaphorical runway both in protest and in full-on revenge mode, all eyes are upon her. A movie like Cruella cannot work if its lead doesn't, and Emma Stone, in my opinion at least, was the perfect choice to take the mantle passed down by Glenn Close, to give the character a much more familiar, yet still entertaining origin story. Don't get me wrong, this movie is fantastic, not just with the acting, but also with the visuals. Cruella was shot with a $100 to $200 million budget, for some reason, and whether warranted or not, the visuals provide as much of a feast for the eyes as the gorgeous hair and makeup that the movie presents. This is a gorgeous movie to look at, fashion-wise and cinematography-wise, even if the camera feels a tad dark at times, and the visual effects are ridiculous. What's even more ridiculous, however, is the production and set design. The movie is shot in 1970s London, only a few years shy of the miserable start of the Margaret Thatcher era, and the world manages to look authentic for the 70s while also highlighting the rise of the UK punk phase that was steadily growing with the rise of bands like The Clash, who have a song in the movie, and I squealed because I had a Clash t-shirt on when I watched the movie in theaters, and many Karens watching were looking at me funny. That's another thing working for this movie's favor, the soundtrack. While the score by Nicholas Britell of Moonlight fame was good and fit the tone of the movie perfectly, the angsty 70s soundtrack, in my opinion, gives this movie a true authentic experience of that era. Everything from Blondie, Queen, The Doors, the previously mentioned Clash, and even Nina Simone and the Electric Light Orchestra are present in this movie's amazing soundtrack. If there is one thing that wasn't as amazing, however, is the screenplay. I mentioned before that the character is given a much more familiar story, and there's a good reason for it. Don't worry, there will be no spoilers here, and I promise I'm not going to resort to idiotic memes to poorly explain plot details because the internet has such a pathological hate for live-action Disney movies that common sense is happily ignored in order to show it. That said, there are some issues with this origin story. More so, the story itself. I made a joke in my Cruella First Impressions video that the movie felt like the Disney version of Joker, and while that was supposed to be a harmless gag in the movie's favor, it isn't exactly unwarranted. Estella is a regular girl who has a much more sinister personality that her mother calls Cruella, and the story revolves around a wealthy white woman of class being targeted by a poverty-stricken white woman of possible mental illness that manifests into a split personality that causes her to commit crimes and gain fame and infamy along the way. Oh, shit.
Yo, he know too much.
Okay, questionable similar story beats aside, the story follows too many formulaic elements of a villain origin story. The parent, the sympathetic childhood, the close ties with the antagonist. They even managed to string along a connection between her villainous behavior and the franchise's focus on Dalmatians, though not in the same way that infuriating Twitter posts are making it out to be. The story requires a level of context that I'm not able to provide because of spoilers, but believe me when I say there's a reason for everything even if it seems ridiculous at first. Let the story explain itself before making dumbass memes is all I'm saying. Cruella may not have any reason to exist, but at the end of the day, they set out to tell an interesting and entertaining origin story for one of Disney's greatest villains, and arguably they succeeded. This is one movie that should not be ignored, and it is also one that I'm very happy to have been able to see in theaters, and I'm saying this because I still refuse to pay $30 to watch something on Disney Plus that I can easily watch for free, Disney. Why does this movie get $30 as a payout and not Luca? In fact, better question, why is Luca not being released in theaters? I don't even care about the movie anymore. I'm not talking about the review. I'm being serious right now. Why is Luca not getting released in theaters? Somebody fucking explain that to me right now. Somebody. Swear to God, this is the stupidest fucking... Alright. Anyways, at the end of the day, Cruella is a fabulous punk rock tribute to one of the greatest villains in Disney history. It's colorful, it's loud, it has 3 adorable Dalmatians that are scarier than any bulldog that I have ever run away from while exercising, and it is one of the best live action movies that I have ever seen. I'm gonna give Cruella an 8 out of 10. The movie is currently out in theaters everywhere, and while I think it's ridiculous, you can technically watch this movie on Disney Plus right now with the $30 Premiere Access perk. I wouldn't recommend it, but hey, you do you. And that's all the time for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you see here and you would like to see more, be sure to like, share the video with your friends, and subscribe for more content. And if you would like to support the show, then check out our Patreon page for bonus content and exclusive rewards, including the chance to be able to request for a movie or show for us to review in the future. As always, I'm Sebastian from KateCast Reviews signing out, and I'll see you on the wasteland.